My next guest is back in action at UFC Vegas 72 on April the 29th when he meets Rodolfo Vieira. And of course, it is Cody Brundage back on the show. Cody, how are you?
I'm good, man. Always a good time when I get to talk to you.
Yeah, always a pleasure having you on, man. One of my favorite interviews in the UFC. I've told you that on and off air before. So a lot to get to, man. We'll dive right in. I want to start first with your last fight. That was in December. It was a loss to Michel Olajaychuk. Obviously, it didn't go your way. Looking back on it now, what's the takeaway? What did you learn from that fight?
I felt like the fight was going my way for a minute, and then obviously turned pretty quickly. And I think part of it is just I'm still getting comfortable, fighting, and especially under the big lights. That's tough. It's something that takes time and experience. And I don't think I made a mental error at more so just a physical error. And you can fix physical errors easily or more easy than you can a mental one. So I've always been really good about bouncing back from my losses. I feel like that's something that has helped me to be as successful as I have, is that I don't linger too long on it or the loss. I just get back in the gym and get busy. So, I knew that he was a tough opponent going into it. I knew he was, he's fighting for a top 15 spot on the same card I am now. So, I was happy to have that fight and that opportunity. Obviously, like I said, it didn't go my way, but I wasn't in there. When I was in there, I didn't feel like, man, I'm just not on this level. I made some mistakes and lost, but with him and I can hang with those guys at that level. I just got to make some adjustments and get a little bit more seasoned and maybe do that outside of the UFC cage. I had 3 fights last year. I had a total of 9 minutes of cage time. So it's not like I'm getting tons of in cage experience. So I got to figure out how to bridge those gaps outside of fighting on fight night. So that's something I've been working on. And yeah, obviously I'm very competitive. I want to get the win, but I wasn't crazy disappointed in my performance. I felt like obviously I had a lot more to show and a lot more to offer, and that was upsetting. But I also know this game, and this game is you flip a coin sometimes. So yeah, and I was happy to get a fight at the end of the year. I thought I was only going to get 2 fights last year, and so getting that third fight was important and good. And like I said, I learned a lot of lessons, and hopefully they show in this next fight.
As I said, that last fight was in December. Were you hoping to have this much time off, or was it kind of a good thing to just get as prepared as possible for Vieira?
I was hoping to not have as much time off, but it probably was a good thing. It seems like forever when you're waiting to get a call for a fight, but 4 months really isn't that crazy, and kind of expected, right? Like my first fight in the UFC was in September, and I didn't fight again until March, so it's a shorter gap than that, which is nice. And I've noticed that if you're winning, you get quicker calls, so you just got to get your wins going, and you'll get that call a little faster. So it felt like an eternity. It was really, in reality, I think I got the call like maybe a month and a half after I fought, but it felt like forever. And part of that is, I got the new baby coming in July. So I was like, man, I got to get a fight. We got to get these things cranked out. And had my wife and coach kind of be like, hey, chill out, man. It's going to work out. Don't worry about it. I'm sure my manager was super annoyed with me. I text him like every day. I'm like, hey, let's get something. Let's get something. So probably a good amount of time in between fights, and definitely time that I could grow and get better. And, that's exciting always. I'm super young in the sport. So I feel like every interview we have, I'm like, man, I'm going to be a whole new version. And it sounds corny, but I really feel like that. Like I'm getting a lot better, learning a lot. And hopefully, like I said, it shows in this fight.
And how many fights do you have left on your initial UFC contract?
So I signed a new contract. That last fight was the first fight on my second contract, which was a 4-fight deal. So I got 3 left on this one.
Okay, perfect. That's fantastic. And you
Yeah.
mentioned what's coming in July, a new addition to the family. I saw the post that you made on Instagram with your beautiful little girl saying that she's going to be a big sister. Do you guys know the gender yet, or are you not going to reveal that?
Oh yeah, we got another girl coming. I feel like that might be the fighter curse. We always have girls, but I'm happy with it. Before my first was born, I was like, I want a boy, I want a boy. And now I'm like, man, just give me all the girls. I'm good with it. I'll be a girl dad for life. I think I need that to soften me up a little bit. Everything else I do in life is so like gotta be hard. So I need something to kind of chill me out, mellow me out, and my girls definitely do that.
Have you guys come up with a name yet?
Yeah, Millie. So we're gonna have my first daughter's name is Kingsley, and our new baby's gonna be Millie.
I love it.
Breaking news. I think you're the first person I've told that to other than our family. So Watch this interview for some insight.
Well, I appreciate you sharing some family news with me and my man. That's fantastic. Obviously, that's the main priority, for you just in life in general, right? Fighting
Yeah.
probably I would imagine comes second, family first. How has that balance been with, a pregnant wife and everything? Has it been difficult to kind of do everything you need to as a husband and father and then, a fighter for your job?
It's not, I'm an anomaly, bro. I'm super lucky. My wife fought at the highest level. She fought in the UFC. She understands like the sacrifice and things it takes, and that doesn't make it easy to not necessarily split it 50-50. When it comes right now, it's a good split, but when it comes time, we're like 4 weeks out, 3 weeks out. It's really a lot of pressure on her, and she handles it with a lot of grace and doesn't it gives me a lot of forgiveness, and I'm very lucky that way. I never feel the pressure of like you're not doing enough or whatever. She understands like what I'm doing is for us and it's for myself, but it's for us and trying to make a better life for her and the girls. And I'm very lucky, man. She's my number one support. She doesn't make me feel guilty at all. And then, I just try to do my best after I fight that we go on a trip home or we give that time back. If I'm locked in for 4 weeks, I try to give at least 2 weeks back where it's like I'm dad, I'm husband, and fighter is nowhere even on the table. So I feel like we're still figuring it out, but I feel like the balance is there. And like I said, she's a rock star, so it makes it a lot easier.
It's fantastic, man. Very happy for all of your personal success. Definitely deserve every little bit of it. Let's talk camp, man. Factory X, one of the best gyms, not just in the country, man, in the world. You guys have a bunch of killers there. How has it been thus far?
It's been awesome. Julian Marquez came out and he's been here for his last camp, so another big guy. And that's rare. You don't find a lot of gyms with a large number of big guys, and I feel like Factory X has a ton. I got Josh Fremd, who just got a fight, Dustin Jacoby, who's going to fight 2 weeks before me, Rob Wilkinson, who's fighting at the beginning of April, Zach Cummins is fighting 2 weeks before me, Anthony Smith is fighting 2 weeks after me. So we're all kind of in this camp together, and Julian, who's fighting this weekend. So we've all kind of been in camp together, grinding, and it's been a good push. Each guy brings something different to the table, and I'm just continuing to learn and grow from my teammates and try to be a technique thief and steal all their moves and, just take kind of their confidence and ride their wave, so to speak. So it's been good. I feel like like I said, I'm very lucky. I'm very fortunate. My coach gives me so much one-on-one time and effort and really doesn't ask for anything except for that I do my best, and that's rare to find. And I feel like Factor X is different, man. We're special, and it goes way beyond fighting. So I'm lucky, and camp's been great so far.
And so Vieira, he's known as the black belt hunter. So has this camp been geared towards a lot of jujitsu, putting yourself in difficult situations and getting yourself out of them? Has that been kind of what you've been focused on?
Well, I'm only a blue belt, so I'm not sweating it too much. No, yeah, definitely. That's his game, and he's the best at it. I would say in our division, he's probably the most accomplished jujitsu guy in the division. But lucky for me, this isn't a jujitsu match. This is a fight, and I feel like I match up really well with him. I feel like to do jujitsu, you got to get me to the ground, and I don't think that's an easy task. I feel like I present problems when it comes to wrestling defense, and wrestling is kind of my forte and what I've been doing. And I'm excited for this fight, man. It reminds me of a fight I had in LFA right before I got signed to the UFC. I was fighting a brown belt out of Gilbert Melendez's gym, and he had solid jiu-jitsu, and obviously not the level of Vieira, but at the time he was the best jiu-jitsu guy I'd ever fought, and it kind of forced me to fight the fight on my feet a little bit, and I feel like I thrived there, man. I really do. I feel like sometimes, like I said, it's an experience thing. I go into my fights. If you watch my fights, I'm like, I got to get the takedown, and I rush the takedown, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gassed or I'm tired or whatever. I'm overthinking what I'm doing, and I feel like this fight produces the opportunity to work on my stand up and show my stand up that no one's really seen. I don't think anyone's other than that knockout on Trey Sean. No one's really seen my stand up, and I think people will be surprised. I think I've made huge leaps and bounds, and I have talent there. And like I said, this matchup forces me to kind of show that, and I'm excited to do that.
No, I interviewed another guy in your division, Brendan Allen, who just had a big win over Andre Muniz. And that's the same kind of deal. Everyone was talking about how great Muniz is on the ground. And Brendan Allen, he's saying, well, if we go to the ground, I feel comfortable there. But, maybe the smart thing would be to keep it on the feet. And he was able to stuff takedowns and do that. Do you feel like this is kind of a similar type of matchup?
Yeah, I mean, also hats off to Brendan Allen. That was a great fight. Shocked a lot of people, man. That was cool to watch. But yeah, I think it's similar stuff to take down. And then as it gets later on, I think Rodolfo's done a great job of improving his cardio. I think part of that is risk management. I don't know necessarily that his cardio is much better, but I think that he slows the fight way down. When he was fighting those early fights in the UFC up until he lost, he come out like a madman, shooting for his life, and hoped to get the finish in the first round. And Hernandez kind of stopped him. Was able to show that that's not going to work and it's not a sustainable game plan. And so when he came out against Stolfus and Chris Curtis, he was very laid back, much more slower paced, kind of struck a little bit to find the takedown, which has been good. But I think if you put that guy in deep waters, I don't know if the cardio holds up. I guess we'll see, because that's kind of my game plan. Keep forward pressure, be the bully, stop the takedown, and make the fight happen where I want the fight to happen. I'm not going to abandon my wrestling, but it's definitely going to be more about timing and more about when it makes sense. You don't want a fresh, non-sweaty Rodolfo Vieira on top of you. That's a whole different ball game than third round, and you're both kind of tired and you got sweat, and it's just a different deal. So definitely part of the game plan is to work my grappling, and it's just going to be more timing, I think, specific. Much like Brendan Allen, I feel like he figured out when, okay, this is a good time. We're later in the rounds, kind of caught it by surprise and was able to get the finish. So it's similar, yeah, super similar.
Okay. I got a few more questions about Vieira, but we'll come back to that here in a little bit. I want to ask you a little bit about Dustin Jacoby, your guy, my guy. He's everyone's guy. Everyone loves Dustin Jacoby, and he's
Oh
got a
yeah,
big fight, man. It's 2 weeks before you, April 15th. Mirzakhanov, a very well-rounded fighter. So break
yeah.
this one down for me. I'm sure DJ looks great in camp. How do you see this fight playing out?
I think Mirzakhanov comes out hot. I think he's very quick for 205. He's smaller. He's definitely not as long. He's kind of more like an 85er size wise. But he's quick and he throws everything with heat. He jumps into a lot of things. He kind of has that like karate style, even though I think he's a sambo guy, but he has like his stand up is very like karate esque. He stands tall, kind of has that like bounce that you see a lot of those guys have. And yeah, it's a tough fight. He's undefeated for a reason. I think DJ presents problems that he hasn't seen before. I think DJ is very long. I think DJ knows how to use his length. DJ's struck with the best strikers in the world. So he's kind of seen that look. And I think DJ has cardio for days. DJ can push a hard pace. We've seen it in all his fights. And I think if you could say a knock on Murkanov is that he's shown that he'll gas. He'll show that he'll tire. Which is a tough spot to be with Dustin. So I think it's favorable for Dustin. It's definitely a tough fight, but when you're in the top 15 in the world, every fight's going to be tough. Dustin knows it's a tough challenge, but I think he'll be ready, man. I think a lot of things were going on in his last camp. He had a great performance, but a lot of things were going on in his last camp that he would never make public because that's just not the dude he is, and it's not my place to make him public. But there was just some stuff going on that he's not dealing with this camp, and so I'm excited wrong from his last fight, and I know he's super motivated. I always joke like Dustin gets locked in like 2-3 weeks before his fight. He's like a whole different dude. Like normally he's like the happy-go-lucky, fun dude all the time. Then he gets locked in. You're like, damn, this is gonna be a hard practice because Dustin's about to get in my ass. But he's locked in now, and he's 6 weeks out. And so just kind of I think he's super motivated, and I like the matchup for him. Tough fight for sure, but I really like the matchup for him. I think he'll be really well prepared, and I'll be there. So I'm excited to watch him handle business first row.
Yeah, and I would have to imagine too, like if he'd be even more dialed in and scary to train with if he's not golfing, right? Like if he doesn't get out there a couple days a week, I would imagine you get a little agitated Dustin Jacoby.
That's right. I know the weather's getting a little better out here, so he's excited for that. But yeah, no golf for Dustin equals a rough day for Cody at the office for sure.
Fair enough, man. Hey, I want to get a couple of picks for you. Obviously, this weekend is UFC 285. Let's start with the main event, the one that everyone's talking about. It's for the heavyweight title. John Jones, Cyril Gane. I mean, how do you see this fight going? A lot of people are leaning towards John now. He initially was the underdog. Now he's the favorite. What do you think is going to happen?
uh Man, I just feel like anything can happen to heavyweight, right? Because they're both giant guys and they both throw with power. I just think John's fought dudes that have crazy power a lot, and he's figured it out. And when I watched the Ngannou Cyril Gane fight, and you're getting out wrestled by Ngannou, I just don't see you holding up to John Jones level wrestling. You know, John Jones is taking down Olympians. No offense to Ngannou, I'm sure he has great wrestling, but he's not on that level. And so I could see it being, and also here's the thing: when John gets on top of you, go watch some of his old fights. He's got some of the most brutal ground and pound you'll ever see. And everyone's like, he's just going to take him down for 5 rounds and lay on him. And I just don't see that happening. I think he'll finish Cyril Gane. I don't know. I think like second or third. I think the first round is going to be super boring. And then I think second round he'll come out, find the distance, which I think he's the best in the world at, take him down and then do damage and then either find the finish in the second or the third. But I think once he gets his wrestling going, that ground and pound is going to be pretty crazy. So we'll see. I know why people are picking Gane. He's great. He's a great athlete, but I just don't see his wrestling holding up to John Jones.
If Francis Ngannou comes back to the UFC, who do you think wins between John and Francis?
I don't know if Francis' knees are holding up. You know, because in that Cyril Gane fight, I mean, the guy couldn't move. It was crazy. You know, like he could barely move. He couldn't. His power was pretty much null and void because he couldn't ever touch him. If he's got good knees, if the surgery went well and his recovery went well, that's a great fight. I think Francis has good takedown defense. I think after that Stipe fight, he really put a lot of work into his wrestling, and he's a giant dude. Like I get John is big now, right? I think he weighed 248 or something today. He's a big dude, but Francis is walking around damn near 300 pounds. You know, he's a different kind of big and different kind of power than anybody in the world that we've ever seen. So that fight might be a little different. I think that would be a super slow paced, boring fight. And I don't know who would win, to be honest with you. I think it would look a lot like Yoel Romero and Izzy, to be honest with you. I think it would be super similar to that.
Okay. Well, I think about Ngannou's power and what was it, Rosenstrike? It looked like he took his head off. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
not
crazy.
even a tech. He just goes, you know, and like that's something. How do you prepare for that? How do you prepare for a guy to just put his chin down and like throw softballs at your face? Like it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But he makes it work. Like I said, he's a different kind of big. You know, we're talking about heavyweights, but he's huge, bro. I saw him at the PI one time, and he doesn't even look like a human being. I'm like, what is this other species of person that is around? I'm not of the same species as this guy. He's huge, dude.
Fair enough. No arguments with me there. The co-main event is for the 125-pound female title. Shevchenko, Grasso. I mean, Shevchenko's a massive favorite. Everyone's expecting her to just run right through Grasso. Any chance that there's a big upset here, or do you feel like the smart money's on Valentina?
Yeah, I'd say smart money's on Valentina. I feel like the things that Grasso's really good at do not translate to her winning the fight. You know, like I feel like Santos had great wrestling and was able to get takedowns and was able to kind of slow Valentina down. I don't think Grasso's gonna be able to take Valentina down. I think Valentina will have a huge strength advantage because I think hasn't Grasso fought at 115 before?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and like Joanna's super strong, right? And when she went up to 25, she got ragdolled by Valentina. I think it's going to take a true 125er. I really would honestly like. I know this is going to be in the future, but I would not be shocked if Erin Blanchfield has what it takes to beat Valentina. I think her style, like to come forward and close the distance, get the takedown, not be scared to get hit with some shots. Like that's the kind of style that's going to beat Valentina. I just don't see Grasso getting it done. She has great boxing. She's a great fighter. I just don't think she's not diverse enough. I would say like she doesn't have enough to her game to beat Valentina.
Where are you watching the fights this weekend? You staying home?
Yeah, I'm staying home. I think I'll probably go to Dustin's to be honest with you. He's gonna have some people over, so he got a new house like semi recently, and the place is beautiful. I'm like, I'm going to the Jacoby Estate to watch the fight.
Very cool,
Waiting
man.
on the putting green in the backyard. So, you know.
I'm sure it'll be a good time. I'm
Yeah,
sure
for
a lot
sure.
of teammates there watching some great fights. It's a phenomenal card, top to bottom. Let's transition to April 29th. I was going to ask you too, like, is this at the Apex in Vegas? Because I didn't see it on Tapology until just today. They announced not Jimmy Fleck, was Charles Johnson and Cody Durden are fighting. And so, yeah, it's at the Apex. It's UFC Vegas 72. You got a tough fight, Rodolfo Vieira. We talked about it a little bit. His most recent fights, he had a UD loss to Chris Curtis, and then he had an RNC win before that over Dustin Stoltzfus, who's no longer in the UFC. So I'm sure you watched a little bit of tape, Cody. When you look at those fights, is there something that maybe you can pick out to exploit him in this matchup?
I just think pressure. I think you got to be the pressure fighter when you're fighting someone like that. Um, and then just not parking, right? Like I feel like he caught Dustin in that rear naked choke in the third, but it was a super close fight up to that point. You know, it could have been 1-1 going into the third. And Dustin was able to, even when he got taken out, get up pretty easily and quickly. And it was because he didn't park. So I feel like if you're not, even if he takes you down, if you're not parking, there's a good chance you're going to get back to your feet. And, you know, I feel like I have an advantage on the feet. I feel like I have a cardio advantage. And, yeah, so I feel like that kind of stands out. Don't park. Don't let him settle in position because once he does that, he's the best in the world. You know, it's tough to deal with. But yeah, tough fight. I know it is. I feel like I only take tough fights though. I mean, every fight in the UFC is tough, but I feel like I take tough fights, and I feel like I rise to the level of my competition. Um, and yeah, I'm excited for it. I said yes to it 6 months ago when I felt like, and I feel like I'm a much better fighter than I was 6 months ago. So it'll be good.
Do you feel like he's just going to be shooting, trying to take you down? And if so, how confident do you feel you'll be able to stuff those takedowns?
No, I think he'll come out and strike. Like I said, I think he has a different game plan since that Hernandez fight. I think he doesn't trust his cardio to relentlessly wrestle because that's hard. I don't think anybody can really do that unless your name's Khabib. So uh, I think he'll come out, strike. He has a good jab. He's very crisp with his 1-2, his outside leg kick. You know, that's kind of his game a little bit, and then find the takedown in an exchange. But I think, yeah, I don't think I'd be shocked if he shoots before like 3 or 4 minutes, honestly, unless I clip him. But I would be shocked if he's wrestling much in the first round. But as it goes on and he gets a little more tired, that's when he starts to rely on the wrestling. And you know, you kind of see his guard drop a little bit. You see his footwork get a little bit lazier, and that happens to everyone. But you know, his wrestling will come later. You know, he when he tires out a little bit, he goes to what he knows, which is the grappling.
Ultimately, how do you see this fight ending? What's your official prediction?
I think I have a huge speed advantage. I think, like I said, I have the cardio advantage, and I think you know I just fight the fight on my time, on my pace, and you know one of my buddies, Alex Hernandez, he just had a big win, you know, and the biggest thing I think I took from that fight was he dictated the pace of the whole fight, right? Like he made Jim Miller fight his fight, where Alex is before he's kind of lost fights because he comes out hot and he's like, I gotta turn up, I gotta get the finish, I gotta do this. And this fight, you know, he didn't have any of those feelings. He just felt like I gotta go out there and fight my pace, and if I do that, I'll take care of business. And I'm just trying to take that same energy into my fight. You know, I feel like I come out hot sometimes, and I'm like, I gotta get the finish, I gotta figure out a way to get this done. I want to get out of here, and it's a lot of nervous energy. And instead of just being like, man, just go out here and let things happen as they're gonna happen on my time. And I think if I do that, I can find a finish late second, early third, but I think I can find the finish for sure. Like I said, I think my advantages are will help me to find a finish later in the second, third, and kind of pace this fight out a little bit.
All right, man. Well, as always, I appreciate you joining me and previewing this upcoming fight. Again, April 29th, UFC Vegas 72. Cody Brundage is back in action against Rodolfo Vieira. Before we sign off, man, I want to kick it over to you. Tell people where to follow you on social media. If you have anyone to thank, anything to plug, the floor is yours.
My Instagram's Cody_Brundage_. And then my Twitter is just Cody Brundage 185. You can follow me on either one of those, kind of keep up with what I'm doing. But I just want to shout out my team always, man. Factory X. Like I said, I'm super spoiled. I'm blessed to be here, and I appreciate all those guys. My management, Iridium, for getting this fight to happen before new babies coming. You know, I appreciate them. And then just my wife and my daughter. You know, they sacrifice a lot, and it's definitely a team effort. So appreciate all those guys.